All right, got one from Breaking Points here. It's about the recession, man. We in it. We all know. We all know we in it. But let's check this out, huh?
Morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
A lot to get to. We've got a bunch of news on the economy, including a Fed rate cut. We've got Kash Patel getting grilled and not equipping himself that well. I don't know. English language is a struggle this morning, apparently. We've got a bunch of news with regard to Trump and an incredibly corrupt deal in the Middle East. And we also have the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel, state-backed crackdown on media. A lot to get to there. And we have a guest, Robert Malley, who's been involved in negotiations, under the Clinton administration to try to achieve a two-state solution. He's now a critic of that whole process. He's going to join us to talk about his new book and also the very latest developments in the Middle East. So certainly a lot to get to this morning.
Yeah, that's right. By the way, thank you to everybody who's been supporting the show. We really appreciate it. It's a crazy time here. People literally going. I mean, we were just talking before the show. ABC Disney is caving to government pressure. I don't really know what else we could say.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. What Kimmel said it wasn't that bad, in my opinion. Maybe it was a little bit out of pocket, but as far as, getting him canceled and kicking him off air for what he said, that absolutely insane. And everybody should be afraid for their free speech. We should really take this situation quite seriously. If that's the direction our country's going in, we should be fearful.
About how insane that is, but at the very least, for all of those who are supporting us, we appreciate it. It at least gives us like a limited tool to fight back if necessary. So breakingpoints.com if you can support us. Let's go ahead and start with the economy. As Crystal said, let's put it up here on the screen. The Federal Reserve lowered interest rates by a quarter point,
Yeah, I mean, they did lower interest rates by a quarter point, but it was already baked into the economy. Everybody knew that they were going to be cutting rates. It was projected that they were going to be cutting rates, so it's not going to do anything for anybody, really.
More cuts are likely. This was in line with expectations from economists, which is why some of the market reaction was a little bit more muted. But, quote, concerns about a job market slowdown are overriding jitters about inflation and justifying a pivot towards a shallow sequence of rate cuts. And Jerome Powell expanded a little bit on his view of the economy, inflation, slow job growth.
I don't know if you guys watched his speech, but Jerome Powell seemed so defeated, and just depressed, giving his speech. It was kind of sad to watch. It really, if he can't even keep a straight face, or keep his mood and vibe up while giving a speech like that, it really just it's a statement about our economy. He just appeared to be defeated, and it's really sad, honestly.
And potential stagflation. Here's what he had to say.
My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. While the unemployment rate remains low, it has edged up. Job gains have slowed, and downside risks to employment have risen. Mm-hmm. At the same time, inflation has risen recently and remains somewhat elevated.
Yep.
In support of our goals, and in light of the shift in the balance of risks, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to lower our policy interest rate by a quarter percentage point. We also decided to continue to reduce our securities holdings. I'll have more to say about monetary policy after briefly reviewing economic developments. Recent indicators suggest that growth of economic activity has moderated. GDP rose at a pace of around 1.5% in the first half of the year, down from 2.5% last year. The moderation in growth largely reflects a slowdown in consumer spending.
Yeah, nobody has any money anymore. Especially with the tariffs, grocery prices have damn near tripled, and rent's done nothing but go up, as well as insurance costs. Everything's just through the roof right now. I don't know about you, but nobody I know has gotten a raise. Not a single person has gotten a raise to deal with the rising cost of goods. It's insane. Of course, there's no money to go around. Of course, people are spending less. It's ridiculous. All these corporations care about are their profits. They don't care about the people working for them, and it really shows right now.
In contrast, business investment in equipment and intangibles has picked up from last year's pace. Activity in the housing sector remains weak.
Weak is an understatement, all right? People cannot afford houses at all. It doesn't matter about the interest rates. I mean, the prices alone are astronomical. They're through the roof. It's just crazy. And I mean, a 0.25% drop it's not going to make anything better for the average American.
In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.6% this year and 1.8% next year, a touch stronger than projected in June.
Which is still lower than the 2% that we had in the previous year, you know?
Important comments there about the job growth slowdown, and all of that is being backed up right now by hordes of other data. Let's go and put this up there on the screen from the Wall Street Journal. Quote, the two-speed economy is back as low-income Americans give up gains. They say high earners and older Americans are faring better than ever, while fortunes and sliding again for low-wage and young workers, probably synonymous there down at the bottom. They say for high earners and many older Americans, the economy looks robust. They are spending like gangbusters. Their 401ks and homes have soared in values. They nabbed 3% mortgage rates when they were low. Some might worry about AI eventually for their jobs, but for now, the position looks very secure. What they point to, though, is that if you look at after-tax wages and salaries by household income and a change from a year earlier, you've seen a huge spike, actually, in the higher income households, but the lower income household has seen a significant decline. They also talk about the unemployment rate slowly creeping up, and more importantly, the ability to switch jobs being one that is probably more difficult than ever before. Remember that we had in 2021 or so that time when wages and competition and all there were made it so that lower income people largely could leverage their wage power and by negotiation or going somewhere else. That's gone. It's actually flipped right now. Now is a very, very bad time to quit your job and to or at least do so without having one lined up at a similar wage.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous right now. What he's describing is our K-shaped economy where the old and the rich are doing all the spending. And I mean, if you're not old and rich, then you don't have any money, and I mean, the amount of money that you have is literally going into the ground, right? I personally have been out of work for about 5 months at this point. Well, I don't have any money in my Roth IRA anymore. I had to take it out. I'm about to pull from my 401k because I can't afford my rent. You know, that's the situation I'm in. And I've put in well over 100 applications and have gotten a few interviews, you know, but for the most part, I just get, actually, I'm lucky if I get a rejection at this point, you know. I'd say 2 out of 10 companies will actually send me a rejection if they even look at my application. But if you look at on Indeed, the amount of people that are applying to entry-level jobs is absolutely insane. You know, these companies will get 600, 700 applications for a single position. They have to do the work to go through all of those applications. I don't really blame them for not sending out 600 or 700 emails to these people telling them that they didn't get the job. That's just an astronomical amount of work for them to do. But it's still it's quite annoying, if I'm being honest.
A lot of people are reporting actually either lower wages, downsizing in the economy, lack of demand. And for right now, it echoes the McDonald's CEO's comments about the below 100,000 really struggling in our economy right now.
I was thinking about that as well. And we covered that. And he said that a lot of people are skipping meals, skipping breakfast to be able to make it work. And, you have your feelings about whether people should be eating a lot of McDonald's anyway, but it's certainly an indication.
Right, but if that's all you're eating, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And certainly an indication of where the economy is. I mean, it makes sense. You have the stock market continuing to soar, backstopped by, AI-fueled, frankly, speculation. I mean, the promises in terms of revenue generation haven't really panned down. So there is a risk there. I think a lot of analysts feel that there is a bubble in the stock market. But for now, anyone who's an asset owner, which largely older people or higher income people, they are benefiting. We've talked many times about the housing market struggles. Prices continue to be quite high. I also saw new housing starts are down, so there's less housing.
Don't get me started on new housing starts either. Like, any of these new buildings nowadays that are like new builds from I'd say about like 2020 to even 2025, like, anything in that age range, I would never buy. I would absolutely never buy a house that was built in that age range. Anything I only will buy pre-COVID. The materials that these companies are using now are just crazy. I've seen too many videos of people going through homes and putting their finger through the wall, or having leaks in their roofs and all kinds of crazy things that these bigger building companies think that they can get away with. And then, I mean, they're charging $500,000 for a home that has a leaky roof already. That it's absolutely insane. I will never buy a home that was built after COVID.
Housing that's being constructed. Mortgage rates are high, so very difficult to get your foot on that ladder of home ownership. But if you already own a home, then you have that equity, you have that asset backing your net worth.
I mean, and that's only to an extent, actually. If you bought your home in, when interest rates were zero, or I mean, she's talking about a 3%, 2 to 3% interest rate on your mortgage. If you bought your home then yes, you're probably doing okay. But anybody else, people are selling their houses because they can't afford their mortgages right now. That's where we're at.
So the country really coming apart in these two directions, which is why you see these sort of contradictory indications of where the economy is. Although frequently outside of the stock market, most of the indications are looking pretty clear that we are heading towards a downturn, if we're not already in one, and very likely stagflation. And that's what Jerome Powell's comments really indicate. They are cutting rates because they're concerned about growth. They're concerned about unemployment. We've seen the jobs numbers coming in very low. As Sagar was indicating, you now have too many people and too few jobs. So they're cutting rates for that reason. But there continues to be concern about the way that tariffs in particular are impacting prices. So really not a great landscape out there economically.
Consumer debt is also a big problem right now. Let's go and put this up here on the screen. Credit scores are now dropping at the fastest pace since the Great Recession. They say the national average FICO score has dropped by 2 points this year, the most since 2009.
I mean, I'll be honest, my score has gone up slightly, but it's about to take a hit. I'm living off credit cards right now. I can't afford to not be living off of a credit card. Any groceries I'm purchasing is going on a credit card, and I don't have a plan to pay that back. I don't. That's it.
Although the credit score does remain higher than during the Great Recession, they are down for the second year in a row. And FICO found a growing share of borrowers are falling behind on car loans, credit cards, and personal loans. Younger Americans in particular are, quote, exposed to the double whammy of high student debt and low entry-level hiring under even more financial pressure. Gen Z borrowers experience an average credit score drop of 3 points, the biggest decline of any age group since 2020 during the pandemic, according to new FICO data, including, by the way, if we continue on this, let's put that one up on the screen, please, about the U.S. housing market, just to show everybody where things are. It's one of the most unaffordable times in all of history. If you can look actually at that chart, we have a baseline chart there with inflation-adjusted home prices. Obviously, things fell during the Great Depression. We fell back to baseline after the 2009 crisis. And then you can see this massive spike, far surpassing where things were in 2006. This chart is calling it the 2025 bubble. I'm still not even really sure if that's accurate, because one of the things that drove the 2006 2007 bubble was using homes as financially speculative assets with mortgage-backed securities. Right now, though, it's actually it's a supply and demand problem. It's just the supply is just too small. And the demand is very, very high because everybody needs a place to live. And with growing population, especially with urban consolidation and also wages staying flat, it gives landlords, homeowners, and others a lot more power on top of the soaring housing prices. So is it a bubble per se? Like, I'm not quite yet ready to go there, but
I mean, what he's describing is a bubble. It's going to burst. People can't afford to pay the prices that they're asking anymore. That's why we have so much homelessness. That's why people are living in vans, it's just unaffordable. Rent is outrageous now. It's crazy. And home prices directly affect rent. It's, I don't know. It's gonna burst. It's gonna burst. It's only a matter of time. Something's gonna give. Either they're gonna pass legislation that makes it easier for people to build homes, or the prices of these homes are gonna drop. That's only two things that are gonna happen, really.
The point about affordability remains standard. Even with the quarter point cut, it's still not going to make a meaningful dent in what your mortgage payment would have been compared to a couple of years ago. And it puts tremendous pressure on people who are even potentially trying to save up. Because think about this, you not only have to save up the down payment if you want to avoid PMI, you also, though, are going to have to allocate so much more of your after-tax income to a potential mortgage, which is going to be double than what it was 3 years ago. And in this particular housing market, that also means you're probably going to get like half of what you half of a type of house. I've read a lot of stories about people with 3 or 4 children who are locked in a much smaller house because they had a bunch of kids over the last couple of years, and they're like, we can't leave. They're like, we can't afford it. Literally, we could sell it, but then if we'd have to buy something else at a current mortgage rate, we would not be able to afford what we actually want. So we'll just make it work. Those are the people lucky enough to already have a house. If you're 27, 28, you're kind of thinking about it, it's a tough time right now. It's very, very difficult.
I think to go back to the credit score thing too, I mean, that's a really troubling indication that people's credit scores are following. I mean, that's a great point too, is that makes it even more difficult to be able to get a mortgage if that's something that you're looking at. I mean, it just complicates your entire financial life. But it's also an indication that people are using more and more debt to try to maintain and then falling behind on debt payments. There's a chart out there as well that you guys can go and take a look at of student loan delinquencies over 90 days. And when I tell you the way that thing spiked, it's, again, very troubling. And I think longer term too, zooming out from the present moment and the, I guess, shaky at best economic circumstances out there, there used to be a story and understanding of what you needed to do to like achieve that middle class life. It was like, go to college, take on the debt, but you're going to get paid back in your career and it's going to be fine and you'll get healthcare from your job, et cetera.
Honestly, not going to college is probably one of the best things I ever did. I don't have any of that debt hanging over my head. I've only been able to make money. I never had. I've never had a car loan. Even every car I've purchased, I bought in cash. I mean I don't like having debt, but I currently don't have another way to live unless I'm putting my groceries on a credit card because I can't find a job. And it's only a matter of time before that catches up to me. And I know I'm not the only person that's in the position that I'm in, there's thousands, millions of people that are in the position that I'm in. It's only a matter of time before this economy goes into the dirt even more than it is right now.
And if you look at the unemployment rate now for college graduates, that rate is quite high. So there's no longer any certainty. My daughter is a senior in high school. My oldest daughter is a senior in high school, thinking about where to go to college and what to do with her life, et cetera. And I have no real answers for her because as closely as I follow this, like no one knows what the impact of AI is going to be. No one knows what this country and the world is going to look like in a few years. So kids her age who are trying to make these decisions for their lives and do the right thing and set themselves up, they're at a loss for how to just do the basics of establishing themselves at this point.
I know. It's really devastating. On the student debt piece, with the higher interest rates and a lot of these, I think that hopefully this is a PSA. There are a lot of people who listen to the show who are younger, or maybe you have a younger brother or a sibling. Be very careful about student debt. Internalize and understand what a 7 or 8 or 9% interest rate actually looks like relative to your potential income in the future. Because these things just sound like gobbledygook when you sign a paper and you're 18 years old. You don't truly understand the impact of what $2,200 a month is actually going to look like, even if you're a doctor and you're making $80,000, $90,000 a year as a resident, even at $200,000, $300K. Okay, so look, that's objectively a lot of money. Well, let's say a third of that goes to tax. So now you're at 200 and your student loan servicing, even if you're making the minimum payments is $60,000, $70,000, you're making 130. You live in Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., L.A., I mean, you're not living the high life, doc. Like, you need to really internalize that. Dentists is the same way. People look at it, they're like, oh, it's a great way to get rich. I'm like, you're not a 1980s orthodontist who was able to get their little dental degree and then, make a shitload of money selling kids braces. It doesn't work like that anymore in the private equity economy. Veterinarians is another one. Everybody has this dream. I'm like, I'm going to own my own little practice. That's not how it works in 2025. Private equity has rolled all these people up. You are a W-2 employee. Your upside is capped dramatically. Yep. Maybe it works in a small town, but where I live and where the vast majority of the U.S. population lives, that is not how it works anymore. Plumber, even, some of the traditional blue-collar trades, a lot of that has been rolled up. So you are at more of a mercy of corporate power, and your upside is way more capped than any time, I think, in the future. Please, please be careful, because I've seen it in my own life. People who are chained, they have no choice. And sometimes life will hit you. You'll have a kid and you're like, I don't even have friends going through this right now. I don't even want to work. Guess what? You got no choice. Your ass is going to work, and you're going to pay $60,000 a year for daycare and for your debt servicing. Now you have barely enough money where if you get to go out a couple times a week to eat, you're lucky. Yeah. And these are people who are making big money.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I won't have kids. I'll just say it plainly. I'm not expecting to have kids in my life ever. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford to have a child. And that's sad, that's really sad. It's just, it's too much money. I don't I don't even have a job, right? So of course, I'm not looking at having a child, but even if I did have a job, I wouldn't put my child or my, potential child, I don't want them living in this economy. I don't want them to struggle the way that I am right now. And that's what they would have to look forward to, is a struggle. I don't have high hopes for the future of America, if I'm being very honest. I think we're going to go down the drain very, 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 very soon. That the bubble is going to burst, the economic bubble is going to burst as these boomers die and these corporations start taking more and more power away from, citizens. It's not looking good. Capitalism has just gone way too far. I don't know why it's okay for these corporations to boast record profits, but nobody's seeing raises. Nobody is seeing raises. There's something wrong with that. These millionaires and billionaires are actively making us slaves, and I can't. I don't want to put my child through that. I will not. I will not bring someone into this world to live like that. I will not.
And so imagine if you're making $65,000 a year.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
And what has basically, the core building blocks of, we've talked about this a million times, of like a basic middle class life have gotten so wildly expensive. Housing, education, healthcare, so expensive, okay? And what has kept people satiated is their ability to buy a bunch of random crap, right? And so we have this illusion, and we see everybody in nice clothes and nice car and, like going about life looking like they're affluent, and yet those pieces are increasingly out of reach. And so what the tariffs do is they make that stuff also more expensive. Mm-hmm. So you're getting squeezed from all directions, and that is really starting to show up in the economic numbers at this point, which is why, if we can put a 6 on the screen, Trump has an idea. How about we just don't look at the economic numbers anymore? Trump proposed that we end quarterly earnings reports. The SEC says that they are prioritizing that. And we've had a bunch of, it's no mystery why he's doing this. We had a bunch of Trump world officials come out and say, yeah, the economic landscape is not great now, but just wait a year. Just wait a year. It's going to be great. We're going to get the great American comeback. Like, don't pay attention to these numbers now. And so between the firing of the head of the BLS and the pressure on the Fed, and then this attempt to make it so that corporations aren't actually having to come forward and report to the public what their earnings are on a quarterly basis, they are just trying to either manipulate or hide the numbers of what's really going on, so that people, as if people can't tell in their own lives what the economic reality is. And
I mean, also, right, by delaying these numbers coming out, what they're doing is making it so that insider trading has way more of a stakehold than you and I, right? Because the information is the information that these companies put out is, it tells consumers, you and me, what I mean, it tells us if we should be buying stock in that company or not, right? Like if they're not doing so well and we buy stock and then their numbers go up, we made money. But if we don't know that, and they're only doing what is it? They're saying they're going to do like 3 reports or 2 reports a year. And yeah, 2 reports a year is what it's going to be. The less information that you and I have, the worse decisions that we're going to be making in putting our money towards these companies. Like it's insane. It's insane that they're taking away information that we need to be able to live our lives,
So, I mean, Trump has tremendous abilities to create a false reality, create a false impression. And even when it comes to the economy, some of that works. If you've ever seen the polls where it's like, when Trump gets sworn in, suddenly Republicans feel great about the economy and suddenly Democrats feel terrible about the economy. And if a Democrat were to get elected, then it would totally flip. But you still have a lot of people who have an independent sense of, am I making it at the end of the month? Am I able to pay my bills? Do I have hope for my kids and what their future is? Like, what are prices? What are prices this year versus last year, et cetera? And so I think that the reality distortion mechanisms he's trying to employ here to hide the truth from people about the reality of the economy, I think they will have limited effect since we all have our own individual personal daily experience with how things are going.
Yeah, I mean, that happened under Biden. I've said it a million times. The S&P 500 was up 60% over the total of Biden's presidency. And people still said, what? The economy sucks. It's not like the disconnect is dramatic. And by the way, people even saw some wage growth under Biden. And of course, they would hammer that home. The greatest economy, we've built back better. And people were like, yeah, but the wage increase doesn't keep up with healthcare and education and cost of living and housing, and I could go on forever, right?
Don't get me started on healthcare either. Like, why the hell are we the only goddamn Western society that has for-profit healthcare? I can't get that through my head. I can't get that through my fucking head. Like, what? Why are we actively making our citizens live worse lives? Why? Why are we spending so much money on defense and not on the people of the country? It's fucking insane. Our country's ass backwards.
And so
I can't buy steak anymore at the grocery store.
Right. Yeah, steak is unironically, if you see somebody eating steak once a week, you're like, this fucker is rich.
It's
like,
insanely expensive.
It's crazy if you look at the grocery store sticker. And if you like to buy like decent stuff, like stuff that's grass fed or anything, good luck to you.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time. And it's funny, be at the grocery store and you see the meat section or any of this. In my opinion, this could be totally, subjective. I see less people do it. I see less people there. I genuinely do, who are picking stuff out. Or you always see, the clearance section or the stuff with the deals and all that. It's like cleaned out every time that I go. Maybe it's just where I live, but I'm just saying that's my own personal experience. Generally, I will say on this Trump thing, I know why he's doing it. I think it's kind of a good idea. And the reason why is that I know why he's doing it, but quarterly earnings actually are like a really perverse incentive. And the idea that you have to release quarterly earnings is basically all built around like constant check-ins in the company so that the stock price is fluctuating. It's what also encourages a lot of companies right before earnings to try and juice things or
stock buybacks for
exactly.
this or that. And there's all kinds of financial manipulation.
If you look at more stable countries, maybe I've been sounding a lot like China fanboy recently, but I think there's a lot to learn from them. They have a very different way of reporting financials. And one of the reasons why is because they think shareholderism itself is bad.
Look, China does quarterly earnings reports. I don't know what the hell he's about to say, but they do quarterly earnings reports. Trump said that they don't recently, but that's a lie. It's a blatant lie. You can look it up yourself. Yeah, it's dumb. All right.
I've talked about how the Shanghai Stock Exchange is relatively flat to 2009, even though their country's become dramatically richer, more innovative, much more better off for the average citizen, and not necessarily for the financial engineers in their capital markets. I think that's kind of how a good society should look. So we should ask broader questions here, not just about quarterlies, but about a bigger thing about reporting earnings and what it means for like how we think about companies' economic health, because your ability to buy back stock is not in any way reflective of your actual value, both to society or to your it's only to the shareholder. So shareholderism itself is horrible. Quarterly is part of that. You know, everything is designed, I think, you know, for the top, you know, private hedge funds and all of these other people, or the, you know, asset class people who own millions of dollars in stocks, or 401k holders. And that's fine. I mean, that's the social contract. That's how we all get rich, allegedly, is like just auto buy the S&P 500. And that does usually work because that's how the system is worked up. But my point would be that you're not actually getting a lot richer, you know, or at least the people who have a lot of money are. But for the vast majority, I don't really think that that's how it's working out.
I agree, don't disagree with what you're saying, but I also have no illusion that like it would take a lot bigger changes to the economy. It would change an entire reorientation of our economy to change shareholderism, short-term thinking, and the financialization of every aspect of our economy. And so, in my view, this change is just meant to provide cover to Trump and hide the reality of what's going on as we enter a period that they know well and good is going to be quite ugly for most Americans.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm tired of these companies lying to us and pretending that they work in our favor. You know, it's gross. Dude, I kind of hate capitalism. I think capitalism has gone way too far. I mean, all of these corporations are for profit, and they don't care. They don't care about the citizens. They don't care about the country that they are established in. You know, all they care about is making more money. And I mean, it is, you know, a shareholder issue, right? That they have to report to the people that own those shares that they're making more money, and the shareholders want to see that those companies are making more money. So they do have a point there, honestly. But I mean, like Crystal said, if they don't make drastic changes, like really, really drastic changes in the way that these companies are run or are incentivized, you know, then nothing's going to change. You know, all we're going to see is more layoffs. We're not going to see raises, and we're going to see these companies charge as much money as they can to bleed us dry. And I mean, that's what they're doing now, and they have no incentive to change it. Literally no incentive to change it. But yeah, that's me. Like, comment, subscribe. Catch you in the next one.